Hey guys, Darcy here. Today is the day after meeting with A.P.E.X the rapper, and on the first day we went over what he wants to do in the mix, getting a sense of what he wants in his voice and in the track. And if you're unfamiliar, this is a second video in the series of videos on going through the experience of mixing a record for a client. Not just the idea of like, here's the mix and what I did, but I want to actually show like multiple steps throughout it. So meeting with the client and doing the revisions, all that stuff, because I just feel there's value in seeing what the whole experience is like. You know, if you're never worked with an engineer before, you're at a point where you're willing to invest some money and, you want to see what the experience is like before you do it. This is what this is all about. So let's jump into the computer. And what I got right here is the beat. So he purchased the stems. This is not a beat that I produced, and we've lined everything up. You know, we've cut out stuff where there's silences, and essentially what we're doing here is just getting ready. So we don't have the vocals, but because he's going to be recording those soon. But what we are going to look at right now is what we've done with the beat. So essentially, this one's got an 808. Oh, that's the wrong color. I like that to be red. 1 second. All right, so we got the 808, then we got the drums, and then we got the melody and like an outro melody, and then we also have the reference track here, which is good for going back and forth and listening to. So I want to go over some stuff that happened with the melody in this beat. So this beat has a melody that is super wide, but that comes with a couple of problems. So I'm gonna mute this one here. We're gonna pull up the ozone imager on this Bell's wide, and we're going to bypass this and listen to what this sounds like normally. There's still a little, I'll be upfront though, there's still a little bit of processing that's happening because it's going into a couple other buses and there's still more happening, but you'll get the idea. All right, so it's super wide. Now I want you to notice something. If in this grayed out area, this is going below 0. Actually, if I bring up this correlation meter, you'll see the same thing. It'll be going below 0. It'll go left and be red. So if you're unfamiliar, this is has where this can be phase problems. So if we were to, let's take a quick trial on this. We're going to add in a plugin called Manipulator, and we're going to go mono with this, so it monos the signal. Actually, let's put this on the master bus. So we're going to mono this and listen to it. You hear it like it just drops out? It's because when it's lower than 0, it's super wide. It doesn't translate well to mono devices, so like cell phones or speakers in clubs and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is I try to find a way to solve this problem. So first off, I can make it a little less wide. That's one way to help solve the problem. And so we did that, but it's still like not quite enough. It's still, the correlation's still a problem. So if I take this mono back off for a second, just gonna move this over here, and let's say let's bring this down from 30 to like 90. All right, so technically we're correct, but we're losing the actual benefit of this, sounding like the intended idea. So let's bring it back to 30. So what I decided to do was try to duplicate the signal and play one that's narrow. Problem though is that when you just cannot put the same signal on top of itself, there can be phase problems. So I've done a couple of things to try to combat that. Making it narrow will change the signal somewhat, but yeah, so let's mute the wide one and listen to the narrow one for a second. So the narrow one is doing the like 93%. Like it's making it really up front in center, but it's very different. So what we've done to continue to try to blend these two things together, we added some saturation. I actually might back this off a little bit. So we got some saturation going. We also have Alter Boy, which is doing like a format a shift. It's just something that's bringing it like almost like it's bringing it down a little bit in pitch, but it's not really. And it's just slightly making it different. Like it's not even really noticeable. So what we're doing now is we're blending these two things together. So when I bring that narrow one in and out, it's just kind of making it a little more centered. So if I like put the mono on, it's just a little more present. And this is preparation for the vocals. When the vocals come in, we'll still have to work it and figure it out and all that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of showing the approach, something to try to do, which is essentially you have something that's super wide and you need center frequencies. Try to find a way to add back those frequencies. Or, you know, if you're producing a track or producing a beat, you know, let's say you have a super wide sound and, you know, you like the way it is, maybe add a new instrument that fills up the center that plays along with it, like plays pretty much the same notes. Maybe it's like a slightly darker tone or something. Maybe that'll sound dope, but you're trying to fill those center frequencies. You want something that if it were to play in a device and that wide sound disappears, that something is still driving that sound, so it's not just like all drums and rap and then there's no like melody, even though you did put one in. Other things that happen here, we did a halftime kind of slowed down outro. It's the melody, it's halftime, there's some like delay effects and some saturation. There's still a little bit of like kind of clipping sounds happening there, so I'm gonna still clean that up. But the reason I did that was because the original, they slowed down the beat with the drums and the bass, and when you slow down a sub bass, like halftime it gets super low and super dirty. It just wasn't working. I tried, you know, cutting the bass, but that just sounded weak, so it sounded better just to try to do something myself. So this is what we're at right now. Let's go over a couple other things that are happening here. I'm gonna take that off now, the manipulator. For the drums, not a whole lot's happening here. You know, and the bass, we have saturation with the black box on the 808. We have the same thing, this is the reflection engine on the drums, which is adding a little bit of like kind of room reverb, and then the twin tube processor, which is another form of saturation. So let's disable these, and you can hear what they are like when I add them back in. Oops, wrong part. So the drums come more present with the saturation, and the reflection engine is adding a little bit of like echoey slap delay in the background. Now you can hear the hi-hats are like doubling up. Let's listen to that again. And like the snare becomes more alive. Now, I'm still have to adjust that to taste when I hear the rap come in, but my gut's telling me that doubling effect will sound really dope with the fast rap. So let's see if that happens when the mix comes through, when the vocals come through. And then the other thing is, for the master out, I'm actually mixing through a mastering chain. So in here I have Iron, which is adding some air bass, which is like a dope little like bump in the air and like higher frequencies and low frequencies, and it's just kind of doing a little bit of compression to glue things together. Then we have the back EQ, which is adding some low end thump. We have the Millennia like EQ, which is just adding some high end, like literally just a touch on the high end frequencies to open it up. This is set up for later. It's not really being used right now, which is just the digital V3 EQ for mastering, and then the mastering master desk to get us that volume. And again, that's just to get us to a high level of metering. So let's look at what that means. So let's turn this on and off as we play it. So right now we're achieving like an RMS value of like -6. Obviously our peak value is getting near 0. And if we were to bring up our LUFS, we're getting like about -10 right now. So if you're not familiar, LUFS is a measurement of loudness. That's your integrated value, so over time of the track. And your RMS is just like a measurement of like an average or a mean of the sound, of how loud it is. And so we're using these to gauge. We're really trying to push for a loud level of this track. It's the kind of vibe that's needed. Why? I should back up for a second. Why would I want to mix through a mastering chain? So through experience, I've realized that when I don't mix through the mastering chain, then you go put mastering on and you grab some plugin like Isotope, Ozone, and you slap on like, the mastering assistant. The problem you tend to run into, it gets squished. And it's because, your dynamic range, your peaks between different instruments are too great. And, you try to try another mix, you adjust things, you throw that thing on again, and boom, there's a problem. Or let's say you're using Lander and you do the same thing, upload a Lander, it's even slower and harder, and it's not quite getting there. So what I've been doing is really focusing on actually building out a mastering chain and mixing into it with it on the entire time. I set up a couple things with my kick and my 808, and then I pump in the mastering chain, get the levels that I want. So I'm basically getting my kick and my 808 to feel good at -6. Then I put the mastering chain on and like bring everything super loud, get it where I want it to sit, make sure it still feels good, and then bring everything else in, so that it all starts to feel like balanced and nothing sounds like it's really off. There's still like minor tweaks and stuff, but I'm just trying to make sure that it sounds like, this sounds like it would be clear, and big and present, and that way I know that when I turn it all off, and if I were to send it to a mastering engineer, if I'm not going to do it myself for whatever reason, then I have more confidence that it will sound good when they master it, because I've already taken into account the kind of work that they're going to do. It's not something where, again, like it's like the Lander situation. You mix it and you think it sounds good, you send it to Lander, you upload to Lander, and then boom, comes back and it just sounds off. Like it sounds harsh, it sounds squashed. So that's what I got set up right now. I'm waiting for the vocals to come in. When the vocals come in, then it's going to be getting them in here, cleaning them up. My first pass is always like cleaning up everything, getting everything lined up, then making it sound good. I like to make everything sound really good just with like compression, EQ, with no reverb, no delays. When I have that established, and I'll start adding the room sounds. This track is going to be fun because there's going to be a lot of it's just like a straight hard fast rap for the most part, so there's going to be a lot of like changing it up and keeping it interesting. So that's going to be exciting. Looking forward to it. But anyways, if you like this, or you found anything helpful in this, like and comment. Let me know what your questions are or your thoughts, or if you're somebody who's got some suggestions, because with your experience you think maybe I should adjust something in my process. Please let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. And peace, y'all, and I'm out.